The Regal Heights Hotel was renowned for its grandeur. With its crystal chandeliers, luxurious carpets, and the golden hall that always exuded the delicate fragrance of fresh flowers, it was the perfect venue for sophisticated events. During the holiday season, the hotel attracted visitors from all over the world, but one night, it became the stage for a dark mystery that would echo through generations. It was New Year's Eve of 1964. The main hall, with its walls adorned with polished wooden panels and heavy curtains, was filled with laughter and lively conversations. Among the guests were Daniel and his fiancée Clara, both dazzling in their evening attire. Clara wore a red silk gown that flowed elegantly to the floor, catching the candlelight as she danced. Her eyes sparkled with the anticipation of a new beginning, a new year. But nothing could have prepared them for what was about to happen. Daniel and Clara were the center of attention when at one point, he stepped away to talk with an old friend. Enchanted by the party, Clara decided not to wait and wandered off as well. As she passed through the hall, she noticed something peculiar. He wasn't alone. Daniel stood with a dark-haired woman whose captivating gaze held his attention as they laughed and exchanged intimate words. The pain was instantaneous. Clara froze. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. The woman, in a flawless evening gown, was clearly receiving the attention Clara expected exclusively for herself. Clara stood motionless for a few seconds before turning and leaving the hall. Her mind was clouded, her steps quick and unsteady, until she found the hotel's exit leading to a small terrace at the back. The cold winter air seemed to cut through her skin, but she felt nothing. Her mind was a whirlwind of emotions, and as she tried to process what she had just witnessed, all she could do was stare at the distant horizon. Clara climbed to the top of the building, reaching the roof, where the city's view stretched in a tangle of twinkling lights. Up there, the wind howled, but she couldn't feel the cold. The pain of abandonment, of betrayal, seemed to have completely enveloped her. What had she done wrong? What was missing in her life to deserve such humiliation? The sadness, anger, and sense of rejection were unbearable. Clara approached the edge of the roof, feeling strange, as if an invisible force was calling her to leap. That night, Clara disappeared. The sound of the wind was the only witness to her silent fall. The next day, the Regal Heights Hotel was filled with despair. Clara's body was found just below the roof, and Daniel was devastated, but the story didn't end there. From that night on, the hotel staff began to notice something strange. The first to report something was the night receptionist, Simone, who was organizing guest reservations for the following New Year. She swore she saw a woman in a red dress, with long dark hair, quickly passing through the second-floor hallway. When she tried to approach, the figure vanished. At first, she thought it was an illusion, but Simone's account wasn't the only one. In the following days, others began to have similar experiences. Many claimed to have seen the woman in her red dress floating through the main hall or climbing the stairs as if wandering aimlessly. Some guests swore they could feel a heavy presence near the ballroom, as if an invisible sadness surrounded them. Others heard a soft voice, almost inaudible, like a lament coming from the upper floor. One autumn night in 1965, the hotel decided to host a gala, an attempt to restore the glory of its events. However, something inexplicable happened. During the celebration, a violent storm hit the city, and the ballroom was temporarily darkened. When the lights returned, the guests noticed something that froze many in their tracks. A woman's figure stood in the center of the dance floor. Her silhouette was ethereal but unmistakable. The red silk dress reflected the candlelight, and her face was marked with sorrow. Everyone was paralyzed, unable to move, until someone finally dared to approach and saw that the woman was crying. She said nothing, but her sadness was palpable. Then, before anyone could react, she vanished into thin air, as if she had never existed. Over time, the Regal Heights became famous not only for its elegance but also for the supernatural stories surrounding it. Reports from guests and staff about sightings of the woman in the red dress became a local legend. But as time went on, the nature of the sightings began to change. Clara's appearances, the woman who took her life on New Year's Eve, grew more intense, but now they were accompanied by another figure, darker, more menacing. In 1973, following the events of the gala, James, the former hotel employee who had discovered Eliza's diary, delved deeper into the connection between the two women and the mystery surrounding their deaths. He couldn't shake the image of Eliza and Clara, both in their red dresses, both victims of betrayal and rejection, both seemingly cursed by something far older than the hotel itself. As James began to search for more clues about Eliza, he made a disturbing discovery. In a dusty archive in the hotel's library, he found an old letter written by one of Wellingham's predecessors, the founder of the Regal Heights. The letter, dated 1925, mentioned a secret alliance between the hotel's founder and a mysterious woman, Not Eliza, but someone with the same name, Clara. It was as if the two women were somehow connected by an invisible timeline. The letter revealed that the founder, Harold Wellingham, had an affair with a woman named Clara, who mysteriously disappeared shortly after the hotel was built. However, what was even more unsettling was the reference to a curse tied to the name, something Wellingham had tried to conceal and erase from memory. James, upon making this discovery, felt ensnared in a web of ancient secrets and hauntings, but he had no idea he was about to uncover something far darker. On an autumn night, as the wind whistled through the streets and the hotel was quieter than usual, James decided to visit the old ballroom, where it had all begun. He knew something still called to him there. Armed with Eliza's diary and the notes from the letter, he stepped into the golden room, dimly lit by a faint lamp. The air was dense, charged with an oppressive energy. It was then that something happened. The temperature in the room dropped drastically, and the lights flickered as if an invisible force was manipulating the electricity. That's when he heard it, a soft yet clear voice echoing through the walls of the room. "You shouldn't have come here." James turned, searching for the source of the voice. In the corner of the room, a figure emerged, shrouded in an ethereal mist. It was Clara, but she was no longer in the ghostly state he had known. She appeared more real, more tangible, and her gaze was filled with profound pain. "Do you know Eliza's story?" she asked, her trembling voice almost as if she too was trying to understand her own existence. James, trying to conceal his fear, replied, "Yes, I found her diary. But how are you connected to her?" Clara sighed, her eyes brimming with sadness and regret. "Eliza and I are bound to this hotel, to this curse. But it's not what you think. I didn't commit suicide. It wasn't my choice. I was forced to the rooftop, pushed by a greater force. A force that controlled Harold Wellingham. And Eliza. Eliza tried to help me, but she too became his victim. He made a pact with something far older than anyone could imagine. An entity that feeds on pain and suffering." A chill ran down James's spine. He had never imagined the mystery of Regal Heights was this deep, this malevolent. Harold was making deals with this entity, Clara continued, her voice now laced with desperation. He made a pact to ensure the hotel's success, but the price was higher than he could ever imagine. He sacrificed women he loved, or loved in a possessive way, and their souls became trapped here, doomed to relive their pain and loneliness until the entity could consume their energy and take full control. James was frozen, speechless. He had never thought the apparitions he and so many others had witnessed were connected to something so sinister. But the most shocking revelation came next. Clara looked directly into James's eyes, her expression dark. "The only way to break the curse, to free our souls, is to finish what Harold started. You must find the true point of sacrifice, the heart of the pact, and it's here in this hotel. If you fail, then all the souls trapped here, including mine, will be doomed forever." Terrified and disoriented, James tried to back away, but before he could react, the ballroom doors slammed shut with a deafening bang, and he was overcome by a paralyzing sense of dread. And then he saw it. In the golden mirror on the wall, a figure reflected behind him. Not Clara's, but a larger, darker shadow with glowing, ravenous eyes. It was the entity he feared, waiting for the moment to consume his soul. The shocking finale. James tried to run, but the room distorted around him. He felt the entity's pressure growing, an immense force about to overtake him. But as he touched the door, everything vanished. The hotel, the room, Clara, all disappeared in a burst of white light. When he woke up, he was on the terrace of the Regal Heights, where Clara's tragedy had occurred. The wind cut across his face, but there was no sign of the entity or the woman in the red dress. He looked around, feeling at peace for the first time, yet something still gnawed at him. He looked down. He was no longer on the terrace but inside the hotel, an interior that seemed older, darker. On the walls, inscriptions in red ink, as if written by trembling hands, stood out. As he approached to read, the words were clear. "The pact is never broken. The price is paid." At that moment, James understood he had not escaped the curse. He was now trapped, like Clara, like Eliza, and like all the others who had crossed paths with that fate, condemned to wander for eternity within the Regal Heights. And the woman in red would never stop hunting him.